At 18, Sarah was already burdened with the weight of responsibilities no teenager should bear. Her family's struggles weren't just financial, they were emotional and deeply personal. Her father had abandoned the family years ago, leaving her mother, Mrs. Florence, to fend for Sarah and her younger siblings, Eric and Nellie. The tiny apartment in Lagos was always filled with tension. Rent was overdue, and food was often scarce. Florence, a woman hardened by life, had learned to mask desperation with a smile. One evening, as Sarah handed over a stack of crumpled naira notes to her mother, she watched the relief spread across her face. "Sarah, my darling," Florence said, her voice filled with a rare tenderness. "You're a blessing from God. Keep doing what you're doing, and we'll be fine." Sarah swallowed hard. She wanted her mother's approval so badly that she ignored the shame gnawing at her. Every night, she would step out in skimpy dresses, meeting men she barely knew, all in the name of survival. She told herself it was temporary, that the money would help her family escape this misery. That night, after giving Florence the 50k she had earned, their landlord barged into the house. His voice was sharp with frustration. "Mrs. Florence, if you don't pay the rent by tomorrow, you and your kids are out." Florence didn't back down. "Here's 30k. Take it and stop disturbing us." The landlord left, muttering under his breath, but Sarah noticed the curious way he glanced at her. She knew he was wondering how they managed to scrape the money together. Late that evening, as Sarah prepared to leave, Florence stopped her. "Make sure you find someone wealthy tonight, Sarah. We need to get ahead." Sarah nodded silently, the words sinking into her heart like stones. Outside, the landlord was waiting. He grabbed her arm, his breath reeking of alcohol. "Sarah, why are you ignoring me? You used to come to my room. I'll pay you 10k. For tonight." Sarah yanked her arm away. 10k? Your mates are paying 100k. Don't waste my time. She walked away, her heels clicking against the pavement, and met her friend Clara at the nightclub. Clara was older and more experienced in this line of work. That night, Clara introduced Sarah to a wealthy older man. He paid 100k for her time and, afterward, made an unusual request. "I'll pay you 200k. If you promise not to see anyone else," he said. Sarah hesitated but agreed. With the money in hand, she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this could be the turning point. When Sarah returned home the next morning, she handed Florence 100,000 and kept the other half. Florence's eyes lit up. "Sarah, 100k. You're making me so proud. Your father thought we'd suffer, but look at us now." Sarah forced a smile, but her heart was heavy. Later that day, she confided in Clara. "I'm tired, Clara. I think I've made enough money to start a small business for my mom." Clara laughed, shaking her head. "You're naive, Sarah. This isn't just about money. Men like the ones we meet can change your life. Don't throw that away." Sarah didn't reply, but doubt began to creep in. She wanted to believe there was more to life than this. That night, Sarah told her mother about her plan to start a business. "Mama, I've saved enough. Let's open a small shop. It will be better than this." Florence's face darkened. "Are you out of your mind, Sarah? What kind of business can replace what you're earning now? Do you want us to go back to suffering?" Sarah felt tears well up. "But Mama, I'm young. This isn't the life I want." "You're not stopping, Sarah," Florence said firmly. "Think about your siblings. Eric needs school fees, and Nellie hasn't had new clothes in years. You can't let us down now." Sarah looked at her mother, torn between love and resentment. She realized that Florence wasn't just asking for help, she was demanding Sarah sacrifice her future for the family. Days turned into weeks, and Sarah's routine remained the same. She hated what she was doing, But every time she tried to resist, Florence's words echoed in her mind. Do you want us to go back to suffering? One evening, Sarah met Daniel. He wasn't like the men she was used to. Younger, polite, and well-spoken, Daniel seemed genuinely interested in her. He wasn't flashy, but something about him felt safe. You're too beautiful to be out here like this, he said, his gaze steady. What's your story, Sarah? Sarah hesitated but found herself opening up. She told him about her father's abandonment, her family's struggles, and the choices she had made to survive. She left out the worst details but couldn't stop herself from crying. Daniel handed her his handkerchief. You're better than this. If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here. For the first time in years, Sarah felt seen, not as an object or a means to an end, but as a person. Daniel's kindness planted a seed of hope in her heart, but it also made her question everything. That night, Sarah returned home later than usual. Florence was waiting, her face lit with expectation. How much did you make? Florence asked eagerly. Sarah handed her 50,000, keeping the rest hidden. This is all, she lied. Florence frowned. What's happening, Sarah? You've been slacking lately. I hope you're not thinking about stopping. I'm just tired, Mama, Sarah replied quietly. Can't we try something else? Maybe I could go back to school or get a job. School. Job. Florence snapped. Do you know how many years it would take to make the money you earn in one night? Stop talking nonsense. Sarah clenched her fist, biting back her words. Florence's love seemed conditional, tied to the money Sarah brought home. It hurt, but she couldn't bring herself to confront her mother. Not yet. The next night, Clara introduced Sarah to a man named Chief Benson. He was wealthy, powerful, and dangerous. Sarah, this is a golden opportunity, Clara whispered. Chief pays more than anyone else. But don't cross him. He doesn't tolerate nonsense. Chief Benson was charming at first, but his demeanor shifted when they were alone. He demanded complete control, making it clear that Sarah would have to be loyal to him if she wanted to stay on his payroll. I'll give you 500,000 tonight, he said, leaning in close. But if I hear you've been with anyone else, you'll regret it. Sarah nodded, but fear gripped her heart. She knew men like Chief weren't just wealthy, they were dangerous. One wrong move could cost her more than money. After her encounter with Chief, Sarah returned home feeling hollow. Florence was waiting, as usual, but this time, Sarah didn't hand over the money immediately. Mama, we need to talk, she said, her voice trembling. What is it now? Florence replied impatiently. I met someone tonight. Someone dangerous. This isn't just about money anymore. It's getting risky, and I don't think I can keep doing this. Florence's expression hardened. You're being dramatic, Sarah. People take risks every day to survive. This is no different. It is different, Mama. Do you even care what happens to me? Or do you just care about the money? Sarah's voice cracked as she spoke. Florence looked taken aback for a moment but quickly recovered. Don't be ungrateful. Everything I do is for this family. If you stop now, we'll lose everything. Sarah stormed into her room, tears streaming down her face. She wanted to scream, to escape, but she felt trapped by her own sense of duty. The next day, Daniel called. Sarah, are you okay? You've been on my mind. For a moment, Sarah considered lying. But something about Daniel's voice made her want to be honest. I'm not okay, she admitted. I feel like I'm drowning. Daniel didn't judge or offer empty advice. Instead, he asked, what would you do if you had a choice? If money weren't an issue? I'd go back to school, Sarah said softly. I'd start over. Then let me help you, Daniel said. Not with money, but with a plan. You don't have to do this alone. Sarah didn't know whether to believe him, but the sincerity in his voice gave her a glimmer of hope. Over the next few weeks, Sarah began hiding more of her earnings, saving enough to make a change. She kept her plans secret, even from Florence. Meanwhile, she continued seeing Daniel, who encouraged her to dream bigger. But Chief Benson noticed Sarah's growing distance. One night, he confronted her. "Are you seeing someone else?" he demanded, his tone menacing. "No, Chief," Sarah lied, her heart pounding. "I don't trust you," he said, grabbing her wrist. "Remember, Sarah, I own you." That encounter shook Sarah to her core. She realized that staying in this life would eventually destroy her, or worse. One morning, Sarah packed a small bag and slipped out of the house while Florence was still asleep. She left a note behind, apologizing for leaving but explaining that she needed to find her own path. With Daniel's help, Sarah enrolled in a vocational program and found a part-time job. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work. For the first time, she felt free. Months later, Sarah returned to her old neighborhood. She found Florence sitting outside their tiny apartment, looking older and wearier than Sarah remembered. "Mama," Sarah said, her voice steady. "I came to see how you're doing." Florence looked up, her eyes filling with tears. "Sarah, I thought you'd forgotten us." "I could never forget you, Mama. But I couldn't stay. I'm building a better life, for me and for you." For the first time, Florence seemed to understand. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I should have protected you." Sarah smiled faintly. It's not too late to start over. Over the next few weeks, Sarah stayed in touch with Florence, visiting occasionally to check on her siblings. Florence was no longer the commanding figure Sarah had grown up with. The years of hardship and regret seemed to have softened her. During one visit, Florence surprised Sarah by saying, "I've been thinking about what you said before you left. About starting a business. Do you think it's too late for me to try?" Sarah felt a lump in her throat. "It's never too late. I'll help you get started." Florence nodded, her face a mix of hope and guilt. "I just want to be a better mother to you and your siblings." Sarah hugged her, silently forgiving the years of pressure and pain. It wasn't going to be easy, but it was a start. Sarah's siblings, Eric and Nellie, were thrilled to see her more often. Eric, now 12, was a bright boy who loved reading but hadn't been in school for over a year. Nellie, at just 7, barely remembered their father but clung to Sarah like a lifeline. One evening, as Sarah helped Eric with a library book he had borrowed, he asked, "Are we ever going to leave this place, Sarah?" His question stung. "We will, Eric. I'm working on it." Eric smiled. "I want to be like you when I grow up, brave." Sarah's heart sank. She didn't want Eric to see her past as bravery. "You'll be better than me," she said softly, ruffling his hair. Despite her efforts to move on, Sarah's past wasn't easy to escape. One afternoon, she saw Clara waiting for her outside her workplace. "What are you doing here?" Sarah asked, her voice low but firm. Clara smirked. "Relax. I'm just checking in on my old friend. Word is, you're living a whole new life now." "I am," Sarah said, crossing her arms. "And I'd appreciate it if you stayed out of it." Clara's smirk faded. "You think you're better than us now? Don't forget I introduced you to those connections. You owe me." "I don't owe you anything," Sarah replied, her voice shaking with anger. "I'm done with that life." Clara's eyes narrowed. "Be careful, Sarah. People like Chief Benson don't forget." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine but held her ground. "Let him come. I'm not afraid." A few days later, Sarah received an ominous message from Chief Benson. It was short but threatening. "We need to talk. You owe me." Terrified but determined not to run, Sarah went to Daniel for advice. He listened patiently before saying, "You don't have to face this alone. If he's harassing you, we can go to the police." Sarah shook her head. "You don't understand. Men like him don't care about the law." "Then we'll make him care," Daniel said firmly. "You've already come so far, Sarah. Don't let him pull you back." Together, they formulated a plan. Daniel connected Sarah with a local women's advocacy group that specialized in protecting women from abusive and exploitative situations. For the first time, Sarah felt like she had allies. When Chief Benson called again, Sarah answered with newfound courage. "I'm not coming back, Chief. And if you threaten me again, I'll go to the authorities." His laughter was cold. "You think you can escape me? You're nothing without me." "I'm more than you ever gave me credit for," Sarah replied. "And I don't need you." Hanging up, Sarah felt a surge of empowerment. It wasn't the end of her fears, but it was a step toward reclaiming her life. Months later, Florence's small food stall was thriving. With Sarah's support, she had started selling homemade snacks and drinks near a busy market. The profits weren't enormous, but they were honest, and for the first time, Florence was proud of what she was contributing. Sarah continued her vocational training and even started mentoring young women through the advocacy group. Sarah thought she was finally free of her past, but Chief Benson's shadow loomed larger than she expected. Ignoring his warnings had felt empowering at first, but it wasn't long before he retaliated. One evening, as Sarah closed her tailoring shop, she noticed a black SUV parked across the street. Her heart sank. She hurried her pace, pretending not to notice, but the vehicle followed her. "Sarah," a deep voice called out. She turned to see one of Chief Benson's men stepping out of the car. "The chief wants to see you." Fear gripped her, but she stood her ground. "Tell him I'm done with that life. I'm not coming back." The man smirked. "You don't get to decide that." Before she could react, he grabbed her arm and dragged her into the car. Her protests were ignored as the SUV sped off into the night. Sarah found herself in a dimly lit room at one of Chief Benson's properties. He sat behind a massive desk, a glass of whiskey in his hand. His eyes cold and calculating. "You think you can defy me, Sarah," he said, his voice low but menacing. "You owe me. Everything you have now is because of me." "I don't owe you anything," Sarah replied, her voice trembling but resolute. "I've moved on. I've built a life without you." Chief Benson leaned forward. "You don't just walk away from me. You either do what I say, or I'll destroy everything you've built." Sarah's defiance faltered as the weight of his threat sank in. She knew he had the power to ruin her reputation, harm her family, and sabotage her business. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I need someone I can trust to handle some new clients. You'll work exclusively for me, no questions asked," he said, lighting a cigar. "Refuse, and your family pays the price." Sarah was released but knew the chief wasn't bluffing. Over the following days, she noticed strange men lingering near her shop and her home. Her family was in danger, and she couldn't risk confronting Benson alone. She turned to Daniel, who had connections with a local advocacy group and knew people in law enforcement. After hearing her story, Daniel was furious. "We can't let him control you like this," he said. "But we need to be smart. Men like him don't fall easily." Together, they devised a plan to gather evidence against Chief Benson. Daniel introduced Sarah to a detective who specialized in organized crime. They advised her to play along with the chief's demands while secretly collecting information that could incriminate him. Sarah reluctantly returned to Chief Benson, pretending to comply with his demands. He assigned her to high-paying clients, and although she hated every second of it, she used every encounter to gather details, names, locations, and financial transactions. The risk was immense. One wrong move, and Benson would know she was betraying him. But Sarah's resolve to protect her family kept her going. Meanwhile, Daniel and the detective worked behind the scenes, piecing together a case against the chief. They warned Sarah to be patient. Bringing him down would take time. Daniel paced the small room where he and Sarah met with the detective. His usually calm demeanor was replaced with visible agitation. He clutched a faded photograph of his late mother and sister, his knuckles white with tension. "I can't believe it," Daniel muttered, shaking his head. "All these years, it was him." Sarah placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Daniel, what are you talking about?" Daniel took a deep breath, his voice trembling with emotion. "Chief Benson. He's the reason I lost my mother and sister." The detective, sitting nearby, furrowed his brow. "Explain, Daniel." Daniel's family had lived in a small, run-down house on the outskirts of the city. His mother, Mary, had borrowed money from Chief Benson's loan sharks to pay for his sister's medical treatment. When they couldn't repay the debt on time, Benson's men came to collect. "I was just a boy," Daniel said, his voice thick with pain. "They beat my mother in front of me. She begged them for more time, but they didn't care. They set our house on fire as a warning." Tears welled in his eyes. "I managed to escape, but my mother and sister didn't make it. For years, I didn't know who was behind it. But now, seeing Benson's name connected to these operations, it all makes sense." Daniel paced the dimly lit room, staring at the documents he and Sarah had painstakingly gathered. The evidence they had against Chief Benson was damning: bank statements, ledgers, and a recorded confession Sarah had risked her life to get. But something didn't sit right. Detective Collins, their supposed ally, had been acting distant lately. His enthusiasm for the case had waned, and Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Sarah sat silently in the corner, her hands trembling as she stared at her phone. "Daniel, I don't think I can do this anymore," she whispered. Daniel turned to her, his eyes filled with concern. "Sarah, what are you talking about? We are so close. One more push, and we can bring him down." She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "You don't understand. Benson's not just dangerous, he owns people. He knows everything about me, about us. He told me if I don't keep doing what he wants, he'll hurt me. Or worse." Daniel froze. "What do you mean, Sarah? What's he making you do?" She looked away, ashamed. "He's forcing me to keep seeing him. I thought I could handle it, but I can't anymore. It's me inside." Meanwhile, Detective Collins sat across from Chief Benson in a lavish private lounge. A briefcase sat on the table between them, filled with cash. Benson leaned back in his chair, a smug grin on his face. "You're a smart man, Collins," Benson said, lighting a cigar. "Why waste your time chasing me when you can live comfortably for the rest of your life? This is just a taste. There's plenty more where that came from." Collins hesitated, his conscience battling with his greed. He had once been a man of principle, but the temptation was too great. He closed the briefcase and nodded. "You have my word. I'll make sure Daniel and Sarah don't get far." Benson smirked. "Good. And if they start asking questions, you know what to do." Sarah's visits to Benson's mansion became more frequent, each one chipping away at her spirit. She tried to convince herself it was for Daniel's safety, but the guilt was suffocating. One night, after another degrading encounter, she returned to the safe house to find Daniel waiting for her. "Where were you?" he asked, his voice laced with suspicion. She hesitated. I was gathering more information." Daniel stepped closer, his eyes searching hers. "Don't lie to me, Sarah. I know something's wrong." Unable to hold back any longer, she broke down. "I'm sorry, Daniel. He's forcing me to keep in with him. He said if I stop, he'll kill you." Daniel's fist clenched, his anger boiling over. "That monster, he's not going to get away with this." Unbeknownst to Sarah and Daniel, Collins had been feeding their movements to Benson. The detective staged a fake meeting, claiming he had gathered more evidence against Benson and wanted to strategize their next move. When Sarah and Daniel arrived, Collins greeted them with his usual calm demeanor, but Daniel noticed something was off. The room felt too quiet, too staged. "Where's the evidence?" Daniel asked, his tone sharp. Collins smirked, pulling out his gun. "There is no evidence, Daniel. You should have stayed out of this." Before they could react, Benson's men stormed in, pinning Daniel to the ground. Benson entered the room, his presence suffocating. He looked at Sarah with a mocking grin. "You really thought you could outsmart me? Pathetic." Daniel struggled against his captors, his voice filled with rage. "You'll pay for this, Benson. I swear it." Benson laughed. "Oh, Daniel. I already have everything I want. And now, you'll both pay the price for crossing me." Benson ordered his men to take Daniel and Sarah to a remote warehouse. Collins watched silently, guilt flickering across his face as they were dragged away. He had taken the money, but seeing the fear in Sarah's eyes made him question his decision. At the warehouse, Daniel and Sarah were tied to chairs, their future looking grim. Benson paced in front of them, taunting them about their failures. "You wanted justice," Benson sneered. "This is what happens when you bite off more than you can chew." As he turned to leave, Sarah spoke up. "You're a coward, Benson. Hiding behind your money and your men. You think you're untouchable, but your time is coming." Benson paused, his expression darkening. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." Daniel barely escaped the warehouse with Sarah during the chaotic raid. But the victory was short-lived. Chief Benson, humiliated by the attack, vowed revenge. His empire had been shaken, and he wouldn't rest until he crushed those responsible. As Benson poured himself a glass of whiskey in his penthouse, he turned to his most trusted enforcer, Junior, a ruthless young man he had plucked from the streets and molded into a weapon. "Junior," Benson said coldly, his voice dripping with menace, "I want everyone connected to Sarah gone. No loose ends. No more." Junior nodded, his expression void of emotion. "Consider it done." Junior wasted no time. One by one, the people Sarah had ever cared about began to vanish. Her childhood friend, Annette, was found in her apartment. A distant cousin disappeared without a trace. Even Daniel's former colleagues who had tried to help him were hunted. Sarah, consumed by guilt and fear, knew she had to confront Benson directly. She couldn't keep running while innocent people suffered because of her. "Daniel, I have to go back," she said one night, her voice trembling. "No." Daniel protested, grabbing her by the shoulders. "You're not going back to him. We'll figure this out together." Tears streamed down her face. "You don't get it, Daniel. He won't stop until everyone I've ever cared about is dead. This is the only way to protect you." Sarah returned to Benson's mansion, her spirit shattered but her resolve unyielding. Benson greeted her with a sly grin, as if he had won. "I knew you'd come back," he said smugly. "You always do. Smart girl." Sarah clenched her fist, forcing herself to remain calm. "Leave Daniel alone. Leave everyone alone. I'll do whatever you want." Benson chuckled, swirling his glass of whiskey. "Now you're starting to understand how this works. But don't think for a second that you're in control here." Chief Benson's office buzzed with the sound of hushed whispers. Detective Harris sat across from him, an unspoken tension lingering in the air. "Daniel's becoming a problem," Benson said, lighting a cigar. "He's digging too deep, and I can't have him exposing everything. We'll destroy him before he has a chance." Harris nodded, his loyalty sealed by the stacks of cash Benson had slid across the table. "We'll frame him for embezzlement. Make it so airtight, no one will believe him." Benson grinned. "And Sarah? Keep her close. If she steps out of line, remind her who holds the power." Sarah was sitting in Benson's living room, her heart pounding as he handed her a glass of wine. She had no choice but to play along, even as her soul crumbled under the weight of his demands. "You're the perfect distraction," Benson said smugly. "Daniel won't see it coming. Just keep him busy while we pull the rug from under him." Tears pricked Sarah's eyes, but she forced a smile. She was stuck, caught between her fear of Benson and her desire to protect Daniel. Meanwhile, Harris worked behind the scenes to frame Daniel. He planted false documents in Daniel's office and leaked them to the media, painting him as the mastermind of a massive embezzlement scheme. The backlash was immediate. Daniel was arrested, his reputation in ruins. When Sarah saw the news, she felt her heart shatter. Benson's plan was working, and Daniel was paying the price for her silence. "I did what you asked," she said bitterly to Benson. "Isn't that enough?" Benson smirked. "Enough. Sarah, I decide when it's enough. Now go upstairs. We have more business to discuss." Despite his situation, Daniel refused to give up. From his jail cell, he reached out to Collins, his trusted ally. "Find Sarah," Daniel pleaded. "She's the key to all of this. Benson has her trapped, and she knows more than she's letting on." Collins agreed, setting out to uncover the truth. He found Sarah at a cafe, her eyes hollow and her movements robotic. "Sarah, you have to help us," Collins urged. "Benson is destroying lives. If we don't act now, he'll get away with everything." Sarah hesitated, fear clouding her judgment. "If I do this, he'll kill me." "No, he won't," Collins promised. "We'll protect you. But we need your help to bring him down." Collins convinced Sarah to secretly record Benson. She hid her phone during one of his tirades, capturing every word as he bragged about his crimes. "Daniel's finished," Benson sneered. "Harris has made sure of that. And you, Sarah, you keep doing as you're told, or I'll bury you too." Sarah's hands trembled as she ended the recording. She finally had the evidence they needed, but the risk was greater than ever. Benson soon discovered Sarah's betrayal. Furious, he ordered his men to hunt anyone connected to her. "Find Collins. Find anyone she's spoken to. I want them gone," he roared. Sarah barely escaped with her life, seeking refuge with Collins. Together, they took the evidence to the authorities, but Benson's influence was far-reaching. Harris intercepted the report, destroying crucial files and warning Benson of the impending investigation. Desperate, Sarah and Collins turned to the media, releasing the recording to the public. The revelation sent shockwaves through the city. Protests erupted, demanding justice for Benson's victims. The police were forced to act, arresting both Benson and Harris in a dramatic raid. As Benson was led away in handcuffs, he glared at Sarah. "You think this is over? You'll never escape me." But Sarah didn't flinch. For the first time, she felt a glimmer of freedom. Months later, Benson and Harris were convicted, their empire dismantled. Sarah began rebuilding her life, using her experience to help other women escape exploitation. Daniel, cleared of all charges, stood by her side. "You've been through so much," he said softly. "But you're still standing. That's strength, Sarah." She smiled faintly. "I'm just trying to find my way back to who I was." Together, they vowed to create a future where no one else would endure what they